Okay, good evening, everyone. This is a web-based meeting, so we're operating under the following procedures. This session is being audio recorded just like every other CCP meeting. Tonight, we're also video recording the proceedings. To ensure sound quality, the default rule is for everyone to remain on mute unless speaking or presenting. I'd ask you to turn your video off unless you really need to have it on. And we don't have any public hearings tonight, so I'm going to skip all that if you don't mind, and I'll turn it over to you, Les, to start.
Okay, Dan, thank you. Appreciate that. Welcome, everybody. Thank you for coming this evening. We'll call the meeting to order. And roll call and seating of alternatives. List of people that are here and who is sitting on the issue. Can we get that from Dan or Deanne?
Sure, we have
Go ahead, Dan.
Jason Quarters on the call, Les Singh, Mike Lahan, and I think that's it. Yeah.
Yeah, Singe
I'll let
is
you know
on
if
here
anyone
also,
else.
right?
Sorry.
I'm sorry?
Singe is also on here?
Things there, yep.
Okay, so everybody, all of the commissioners are sitting on this issue then. We can go up to 5. Okay, so approval of minutes from November 17th, 2020. Those were sent out earlier. Everybody should have had a chance to take a look at them. We'll entertain a motion to approve.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the minutes.
Do we have a second?
Second.
That was Jason and Michael Lahan.
All right.
Is there any discussion, errors, or admissions? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, unanimous approval. Communications, do we have any communications?
There's no new communications for this meeting.
Okay, no communications. New business, we will go into site development plan number 1041, modification 2 for 2 West Ledge Drive. Request for a modification of the site plan approval of site development plan number 1041 in parentheses in for modification to amend integral instructions number 1 and number 3 relative to the timing for completion of required recreational amenities. Application and property of West Ledge Apartments LLC, assessor's map number 117, block 1, lot number 14, zone MF. And do we have somebody to present the application? I know it's online. Everybody should have had a chance to take a look at all the documents.
Yeah, we have Brandon Hanfield for the applicant. I'll turn it over to him, and I have the site plan up.
Okay,
If you want to go through it.
sounds
Okay,
good. Go right ahead there, Brandon.
All right, thank you. Can everybody hear me okay?
Yes.
Perfect.
Yes.
All right. For the record, my name is Brandon Hanfield with the Antic River Consultants. Here on behalf of the applicant, I'm a professional engineer in the state of Connecticut. And I think Alex Gebbe's on the call, but I can't expand my screen enough to know. But he is here to answer any questions and hear the testimony. As your description or your staff report says, we're here to request the second modification to the original approval for West Ledge Apartments. West Ledge Apartments was originally approved by this commission on October 16th, 2018. The site layout plan you have in front of you is generally the same. We did come back to you in February of this year to ask for a few site modifications. Mainly, we added for the addition of garages in replacement of a few parking spaces. So there's 30 garages now. And in lieu of a central patio on the site, we changed that out to a pool and pool house and eliminated the formal dog park. What we're here to discuss tonight is the completion or the timing of completion of those recreational and site amenities, and as they relate to the conditions of approval and when certain things can start and be finished. I'll briefly go through the site layout just to kind of bring us back up to speed. It has been almost a year, and then I'll just go through what we're requesting and open it up to questions from there. So what you have in front of you is sheet number 3, I believe, from your plan set that was submitted as part of the February 18th application. This is the same board you saw at that time. A little orientation. Let's see. North is to the right of your sheet. Sorry. West Ledge Drive is at the bottom of your sheet or to the east. The parcel is basically filled in. So that's the entire parcel is basically filled in with green. Scott Street and Woodside Avenue are to the north or to the right, and Dunham Street is to the south or left. The approved use for the site is multifamily. We have 120 units were approved. Two of the buildings, which are kind of top right and bottom left, are 36 unit buildings. And two top left and bottom right are 24 unit buildings. Those have really not changed since the 2018 approval. The garages that we received approval for in 2018 are above building D or to the west of building D. There's 18 there. And to the north of building C, there's an additional 12 garages. Access is the same. Parking spaces, we have 188 parking spaces, no change there, which exceeds your zoning requirement. Pedestrian access is throughout the site and connected, and there's no change there. We're maintaining bicycle access to the site. Each one of these buildings has an outdoor bicycle rack, and that is going to stay the same. And those bicycle racks will be constructed with each building. And recreation as approved, we have a centralized open space between the four buildings. So it's a long linear space between the long sidewalks. That space contains a satellite grilling and patio area for each building and residential use. Adjacent lawn and landscape areas for both play and leisure. And then dog waste receptacles will be placed adjacent to sidewalks at certain areas to allow dog walking within the site. But again, there's no formal dog park. The pool and playground area is to the northwest of or above building C. When we got this approved, we did not have a plan or architectural plan for the pool house, but we knew we wanted to add one for the guests or the residents. The total area of that is 8,500 square feet. And then the last site amenity we were proposing is a kind of above the pool, which is the open space and or wooded area that exists between our site and Elizabeth Street. That's over 1.25 acres. So the reason we're here tonight is really to discuss the sequencing of the recreational amenities and kind of discuss how it impacts construction. In February 2018, we were at the beginning stages of construction. We felt that this was going to be a longer term effort in terms of how the buildings were constructed and financing was obtained. Since that time, we had the opportunity to build out the whole site at once. So right now, building C to the top right and building D are both under construction. A majority of the site work's done. The utilities are installed. I believe we're looking at a late spring or summer certificate of occupancy on the first building, which would be C, I believe. And then probably later summer or early fall for the second building, which would be building D. So, which is good news. We're also at this time in a position where we can start the pool house, the pool, the playground, and buildings A and B at the same time. So the financing has been obtained and we have an opportunity to complete this whole project in basically one rolling phase. And so with that, I'll kind of go to the conditions of approval from February 2020 and describe what we're asking in terms of changes. So thank you, these are perfect. So these are the approved integral instructions or conditions of approval. The first one that's highlighted says all the conditions from our previous approval still apply, which at the time we had no objection with. We agreed to the conditions in 2018. Looking back, there is one condition in that 2018 approval, number 16, that relates to the completion of site amenities, including a dog park and playground be installed prior to issuance of the CO of the second building. We're asking that the condition, the 2020 condition be revised or amended to say except for condition number 16. And the reason we're asking that is it kind of overlaps the modified approval. There is no formal dog park anymore. And if you kind of tick down your conditions, number 3 covers the completion of site amenities anyway. So by adding in the except for number 16, we feel we kind of point to number 3 as the guideline for completion of our amenities. The second request we're making is related to number 3. And currently you can see that it says the playground, patio, pool, and pool house shall be completed before construction of buildings 3 and 4 have commenced. So it's a little, just to be clear, buildings 3 and 4 is the sequence of completion, not the numbers or letters that we show on our plan. So in this case, it would be buildings A and B, which have not been constructed yet. And we didn't really realize it at the time, but this says we can't start construction on those 2 buildings until the pool and pool house are complete. Again, at the time, we thought there'd be enough time between to do these things, but with this opportunity, this could delay us over a year as we complete the pool house to wait to start the next 2 buildings. So what we're asking the commission to consider is that instead of it reading that that the patio, pool, and pool house be completed before construction of 3 and 4 have started, we're asking that the playground, pool, and pool house be completed prior to issuance of a certificate of occupancy for building 4. I don't know, or we don't know which building A or B will be number 4, but we're asking that whichever building is last in the sequence before CO is issued, the pool house, and the patio will be fully constructed and issued a CO as well. So they will be fully functional by the time all buildings are open. And again, we feel this is a much shorter timeline than we anticipated. And we think by sometime in early 2022, you'll see a full West Ledge build out. So I'll just briefly go through, if you want to tick back to the plan, I will show what we anticipate will be completed with the first 2 buildings, so that you can see there will be on-site amenities for residents as those buildings are occupied. So mainly what you'll see, again, building D and C are under construction and will be completed next year. All of the parking and driveway above them or to the west will be done. The garages above building D will be completed. The sidewalks to the east of building C and D, the long linear sidewalk, will be completed, as well as the grill and patio stations. And then about half of the green space or the open space in the central courtyard will be completed. So that entire area will be available to guests or residents, and will be delineated or barricaded from the active construction site of A and B. In addition, you'll see the main access drive and the parking off the main access drive leading up to the buildings will be done. So the residents of buildings C and D will have a safe entry to the site. They will have sufficient parking, and then there will be sufficient recreational amenities that are completed for their use for that year or so while the site is still under construction. So that is what we anticipate will be done. What won't be done while building A and B are under construction, the pool won't be open immediately and the playground won't be open immediately, as they will be under construction. And as we've learned on another project in the city, the pool and the pool house take a little longer than just putting in a dog park. So while the dog park is graded out, grass and fenced in, the pool house require permits from both the local officials as well as the state. There's some pretty advanced construction techniques going in there, so it takes a little longer. So for all those reasons, we're asking the conditions to be modified so that we can start buildings A and B now and the pool and pool house now, and allow all of those things to be constructed at the same time. Any questions? I know I said a lot of things.
Les, I'd like to just clarify something, and if you could have Brandon put it on the record. So because the building officials keep calling the buildings 1 and 2, and it's very confusing compared to the plans. I'd like, Alex is on, I think building 1, I just want clarification. Building 1 is building D. Is that correct? Or
I'm gonna see if Alex is on.
Alex is on. He's
You hear me?
definitely on.
There he is.
Alex, is building D building 1? What are they calling?
Building 1 is, the first one built in the sequence is building C.
See.
Okay, so building C, I think this needs to be in the minutes for sure. Building C is what they're identifying as building 1. Building 2 is building D up on this plan, is that correct?
Correct.
With the 24 units. And then would you say building 3 is going to be which one, A or B?
I'm pretty sure it's going to be A.
Okay, so 3 will be A and 4 will be B. Just because the building officials, I wish they hadn't called them by those numbers. It's very confusing when trying to match it up with the plans.
Sure.
Okay, thank you.
So is that going to stand as far as the numbers versus the building? A is number 3?
Well, just from the stamp, at least in the minutes, so that I can make sure that we're compliant of what's going on when we're looking at the plan, that it, you know, it doesn't say number 1 on the plan. They're not asking for a revision to the plan. I just want to make sure we know which one number 1 is. And he's saying, Alex is saying number 1 is the 36 unit building on, that's just called C. Building 2 is D, which is 24 units. And then A is going to be the A is the 36 units again, which is number 3, and 4 would be building B. So I just want to have that in our minutes very clearly, because the building officials will refer them to as building 1 and 2 and things like that, which is not how our plan has them identified at all.
Yeah.
That's correct.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
So
Okay.
Dan has, if you guys don't have questions, Dan has some testimony and things too.
Okay, go right ahead.
Yeah, I'll just go through my memo real quick. I sent it around to the relevant departments for comment. Most departments had no comment. There was comments from the recreation department that I posted to the website. I don't know if everyone got a chance to read through those. And then there were comments late in the day today from the zoning officer, mainly concerned with the phasing of construction and making sure that there was access to the active construction site was separated from the buildings that were opened and occupied. And I sent that along to Brandon to review once I got it. Just other boilerplate stuff. You just need to make sure before you make a decision tonight that considerations and criteria set forth in zoning regulations section 7.5.6 have been satisfied. And then I have a number of bullet points that I'd ask to waive the reading of that would be included in your motion if you so choose.
Okay.
Want me to touch on the comments, Dan? I did have a chance to look at them.
Sure, if you don't mind, that'd be great. I think everyone would appreciate it.
Yeah, so we did receive the director or recreation director's comments. We fully agree that completion of the recreation amenities are a priority. That's why we added the pool. We felt it was a great amenity for the site. And that's why we took the time to point out what we will have completed for buildings 1 and 2 for C and D, while the rest of the site is actively under construction. So there will be spaces for people to be outside and gather safely as well as socially distant, walk their dogs, and be separated from construction. So there is a sizable space, and just to put some numbers on it, it's about a ½ acre of open space that will be completed to the east of buildings 1 and 2 in that long linear fashion. So that area there is nearly an acre. And when we cut that in about half, you get about a ½ an acre, or maybe just under ½ an acre of space that will be safely accessible for our residents. So that's a pretty sizable area while it's under construction, and it will be separated with a construction fencing. So that will be available right away as soon as the second building is completed and the site work's completed. And we are going to have that done. As for the pool, we agree. Again, if we think it's a very good amenity for the facility. I don't know if it'll be open for renting. I'll leave that up to the applicant for the future, but we agree it is important. As for the zoning officer's comment, I believe his first comment was related to will there be any amenities for building number 1? And yes, there will be. So again, the grill stations and the outdoor spaces immediately adjacent will be available. And then we also agree that separating construction from the living spaces is a priority and very important. And on this plan, what you see, we have that ability. So 2 things allow us to do that. One, there's 2 entrances to the site from West Ledge. So there's the main entrance to the southeast, which will be completed and accessible for the residents. And then we have the emergency access from West Ledge to the north, which will be available for construction traffic during phase 2. And that's how we originally intended the site to be developed anyway. There will be a separate construction entrance and separate areas for construction vehicles and parking. So we feel we can separate the ongoing construction from the living spaces adequately. And I think the applicant acknowledges that it's important to do that. So he has a successful project and happy clients.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah, Mike, go ahead. Yep.
I was getting confused between 1, 2, 3, 4, A, B, C, D. But I think what the applicant's actually asking for is that before the 4th CO is issued, they're not required to finish the pool. So instead of trying to identify it by 1, 2, 3, 4, because even they can't tell which 3 or 4 will be finished first, would it just be easier to say before the CO is issued for the 4th and final building that the pool and its amenities have to be finished?
So I have a question about that though, because we talked about the first 2 buildings being built, which are C and D. But say that the building, which is the 3rd building, which is building A. Building A has another 36 units. So we're talking about a total of 96 units. And we're saying that at that point, at the end of CO for the 3rd building, and there's recreational space that Brandon had pointed out for the ½ acre that's on the other side that's fenced off. What about these other 36 units of housing? And, what are they, is it accessible for them to be able to get to the other area? Is that sufficient enough to have that many units open and wait to the very end to get the amenities? This has been an issue in many projects in the city is we're waiting to give the amenities to the end, and we've found that that doesn't work. It's like, so I'm concerned that yes, it's being built concurrently. That's what it's, that's what we're being told. But, building the 3rd building could be done and all of a sudden something changes and, it's like working on the 4th building and something happens and we get another request to not do those amenities. And that was one of the reasons that we had this very in-depth conversation to start with for the first application. And then the second application is having projects in the city that we wait to the end or for the majority of the recreational stuff to be done. It's just, it's been a problem. And that's why in both the original approval and the second approval that we had those tight conditions on it. I'm not saying I totally agree that the project should be built out at one time. I think that's exciting to do that. But again, we're now talking about, before the last building gets CO, that the pool and pool house. Well, why can't it be after the 3rd building, for the time of the 3rd building? I mean, I'm just saying, because we'll have a whole nother 36 units of multifamily housing with not really more amenities. And how, what if the 4th building gets dragged out? It doesn't happen. I'm just putting it out there.
I'll take a crack at it, and if it gets above my pay grade, I'll turn it over to Alex. But there's two things we'll respond with. One, if there's a bigger delay between the building completion than we believe, the one thing that will happen is if, say, building A is number 3, which we've assigned it, and that building is completed and something happens to building B, which we don't foresee, all of the recreation space around that building will also be completed. So the sidewalks, the grill patios, the completion of the open space between building A and building D will be done. So the only thing that may not be done at that time are the pool and pool house and playground. That being said, the pool house and playground are under architectural design right now. They are proposing to construct it at the same time as building A and B, which would be building in 3 and 4. So in all likelihood, you're going to see construction at the same time of buildings A and at a minimum, the pool house. And more likely buildings A, B, and the pool house are all going to be constructed concurrently. So if something were to happen to building B, it is very likely that the pool is going to continue at the same time. So, we feel there will be, if there is a gap, which I don't think will be very long, there will be outdoor amenities for the next 36 units in that short period of time before the pool's completed. But we feel it's all going to come together pretty quickly here.
Okay, thank you, Brandon. Any,
Then picking up on Deanna's point,
yes,
if the pool house and the pool are going to be constructed at the same time as 3 and 4. But if 3 is finished and 4 hasn't been started, there's Deanna's concern. So if it's all that stuff, if the pool's going to be constructed while building 3 is going on, why can't we just say the CO has to be completed by the time they get the 3rd CO? And then we don't have to worry about, whether or not the developer abandons 4.
yeah, that's definitely an option.
So why can't it be done before we issue the CO for the 3rd building rather than the 4th building?
If I can
Yeah,
chime
go ahead,
in,
Alex.
Brandon, I don't want to.
Oh, please do.
I just want to make a statement that we want to offer these amenities as soon as possible. The pool house, if you've seen the hills at Riverview in that pool area, although we weren't able to open it because of COVID this year, it's a beautiful space. And adjacent to that in the clubhouse is an exercise room. And offering those 2 amenities has really helped us with our lease up, helped us with our retention, and helped us increase rents. And to be frank, so we want to offer all of these amenities as soon as humanly possible. And this is how we do it. We're pulling construction financing for the 2nd phase. With COVID, there's been huge cost overruns. I'm sure you guys have seen that and are aware of that. This is our way of packaging this all together, getting to build the project out all at once, and based on the same timeline that Brandon just laid out. We're not losing any time here. You'd be sitting on the build out of the pool and the clubhouse anyways, because we'd have to wait for all of building 2 or building D to be complete before we could even pull a building permit. With this modification, we'll be able to pull the building permits for A, B, and the clubhouse simultaneously. That's the difference. If you tie our hands to a breakpoint between buildings 3 and 4, we're talking a huge delay.
Why would there be a break point? I mean, if you're
You say I have to
constructing,
have COs,
huh,
you're going to tie it to the CO.
for the end of the 3rd building,
Yeah. It means I cannot pull the permit here, correct?
why couldn't you pull a permit for both buildings and construct them at the same time? And all we're saying is you don't get the 4th, you get the 3rd CO when the pool is done. I don't see why it has any effect on your pulling permits to build buildings 3 and 4 or A and B or whatever we're calling.
Can I just offer one observation on the sequencing of buildings is, I believe, and correct me if I'm wrong, the building permits for A and B are actively going to be submitted and reviewed and hopefully approved, so we can get foundations for both buildings in before, well, I guess we're gonna get 18 inches of snow tomorrow, but
Okay,
hopefully it
with
melts and we
insulation.
can do it before 2021. Second, my only fear with tying anything about completion to a building being CO'd is building 3 or A is a 36 unit building. Building B or 4 is a 24 unit building. If they go off at the same time, which they'll be very close in that sequence, there is an opportunity, depending on crew availability, that building 4 will be sequenced and may jump ahead of building 3.
But-
And then we're tied to, again, it's really just a matter of
I
not
don't,
restricting completion, and that's all I think we're getting to.
I don't think that it's tying you to anything. It's the third CO. So if you finish building B before you finish building A, it doesn't really matter to us. It's the third CO.
Right.
So it doesn't matter in which order those either 36 or 24 get built. It's just by the time you get the third CO for A or B, you have the pool done. So we're not tying into the construction of either A or B. You finish whichever one you want first, and then by the time you finish that one, you have the pool done.
I don't know if that timing will work. I'd have to think about that timing.
But you've been saying all along that when you do A and B, you'll also be doing the pool area. Everything's going to be done at the same time. So all you really need to do
So you're
is,
getting rid of those other conditions and then this goes in place.
I think, the request right now is that the completion of the pool is tied to a CO of building 4, which is really, ideally, or if everything goes perfectly, you may have a pool house by the time their building's completed. The fear is that it doesn't go perfectly. It's under construction. It takes a little longer. And building A is done and has to sit there vacant for a couple of months while the pool is completed. It really comes down to what the site.
why would it take months and months longer to finish the pool after you finish the third building?
I'm just
I mean,
pulling.
you're working on the architectural plans for the pool and the pool house now. So, and then your plan is to work on A and B at the same time. So why can't you have the pool done by the time you pull a third CO? I mean, I don't see the time problem. I don't see a delay between, of months and months, because you're still working on A and B. You just can't pull a third permit until you have the pool done.
The sequence for pulling foundations would be, which I'm estimating, which I'm going to submit to the bank pending approval, what we're asking for tonight, is foundation A to be completed in March 2021. Foundation B to be completed in April of 2021. And then I have the clubhouse foundation for May of 2021. So they're going right down 1 month after the other. That is what I have laid out. And then I've got some Dunham Street renovations on here as well, which is the adjacent leasing office.
think there's no insurance that the city could just be stuck with 3 buildings.
What do you
Instead
mean?
of
Do you want
4.
to take it over? I don't understand.
Well, I think what Jason's asking is can you build 3 buildings and then abandon the 4th one? Which I think is highly unlikely, but
Yeah, if I pull the foundations, if I start the foundations, I'm going to finish it.
I guess my concern, is that, okay, I think that we could get away from what one of the problems with the previous conditions, I think that I've understand is it was tying it to the permitting. So giving you the relief that you couldn't get permits before for the next buildings. So I think we're relieved you can get started and do the permitting. It's just the amenities are an important part of a development of this size of 120 units of housing. And yes, green space is wonderful, and I understand that it's a value to you to have these amenities and to get a higher rent. But people shouldn't have to wait till the end of a project to get amenities. And I just feel really strongly about that. You're living there, you're paying the rent to live in a place that has amenities on the project. And it just assures that you have that quality project done. And where the pool house is, it's not in the way of construction of the other buildings of A and B. It's not like it's in the way that it can't get done, So I concur with Mike as far as, whatever the 3rd building is, that the pool house and the amenities are completed at that time. So then that's just done, check the box off, it's done. If they're going to be built at the same time anyways, I don't understand why that has to be dragged last. That's just, a question.
Okay, so I guess we're sort of at a standstill at this point. I don't know, Alex or Brendan, if you want to, do you want to respond to what Deanne just said, or how do you want to, apparently you're waiting to submit the finance package upon this approval, I understand. Is that correct?
Right now, the condition won't even let us start another foundation until the pool house and playground are complete, which you're looking at a pretty long time before that's going to happen, because it's got to be complete. There's also an issue with the viability when you build a pretty significant capital investment halfway through a project, and have that outlay as it relates to the rest of the project. So there's a reality there. So just at a minimum, relieving us of the ability to start the buildings is a huge help to getting this project done faster and getting it on the books faster for the city. The conversation about what we're tying it to, I think we'll stand behind the fact that it's a major investment that they want to do faster, and we're not here to say we want 5 more years to complete it. It's we want to finish 4 buildings a year ahead of schedule. And they added a pool house, which were not on the original plan. It was a dog park and a playground and a large central patio as part of that open space. So I think they bumped up the game with their last modification and the investment in that property, and it's under construction. It's on schedule regardless of what we're going through right now. They want to start the foundations in spite of what we're going through right now, and they want to start both of them, and they want to start the pool house. So we'd like it to be tied to the completion of or the CO of building 4, just to make sure we don't have to come back to you in 8 months and ask for a few months of leeway. But I'll leave it to a little bit to Alex here to decide whether they can meet the building 3 CO for the pool. I've never built a
We
pool house.
may be fine, but Brandon, you're absolutely right. I expect for building A, the 4th building, to be complete in February of 2022. I expect the clubhouse to be complete by September of next year. But again, we did not blast in that area to the depth of what we needed for a pool, because this modification was made afterwards. So there's additional blasting that is going to take time, and we may be just fine. You're right, but we're talking about a couple of months here. And I think our track record as developers in the city speaks for itself, and that, to throw us in with everybody else is a little unfair. So I'm just asking that it be granted the way we requested it.
So I just want to clarify for the commission that it's a little tricky, and I would want Brandon and Alex to concur if it's going to change from what they're asking, because they're asking for very specific things, and the commission can approve their application as it's requested. They could deny their application as requested, or as part of this, if you want to somewhat be in agreement and concede to certain things and to negotiate and be, as far as to modify this, it is a modification. But to be fair, the commission has a right to approve or deny this, the way it is, or ask you to be in agreement to do something a little different, to basically, come to some agreement that works both best for the city and for you as a developer. And I want you to know, Alex, that we don't throw you into any group of anyone that's problematic, but we have to be fair to all developers in the city. We want to make sure that everybody is up following the rules and building things out in the regulations for open space and in park and recreation amenities. And it was your proposal. We didn't make you put the pool in. So I don't want Brandon to think that we said step it up, as far as making you do this. You have a great quality product there, and you are getting higher rents because of that. So it's a wonderful thing. But no one said you had to do the pool house. That was your choice. But we want to make sure that whatever is proposed on these plans gets built out. And that's not a reflection on you. It's a reflection on everyone that comes in the city. We want these projects to be completed to the satisfaction of the plans that the commission approves. And you did a great proposal, and we're really excited about it. It's just making sure that later on, we're not chasing, the project. I mean, of course, we feel that you're going to be along for the ride for the rest of this project, but, developments do sell during construction. And then we'll be, we don't want to be chasing this. You want to make sure that everything is built out. So that's my feeling as far as that. I don't know if Dan, or any commission members have any comments. I don't know if Dan had any other things to report.
I had a question. Is there a way to use the fourth foundation as some type of insurance to make sure that everything gets built as it was supposed to be?
And what do you mean by that, Jason?
If you go as far as to make a fourth foundation, then that means they would definitely go through with the fourth building.
Well, they are going to do that. They want to pull, I think Alex said that they're going to pull permits to do the foundations for the third, fourth building and the pool house in very quick order. They want to get the first beginning of those foundations in the ground soon. But the condition that was the most problematic on the last one was they couldn't even get permits for the buildings 3 or 4 until they completed the pool. And that's what it said, that it has to be completed before construction of buildings 3 and 4. So I think that we'd be alleviating somewhat by allowing them to continue to pull permits for them. I think that the negotiation here for Brandon and Alex is, and for the commission, to decide if they feel comfortable of waiting for those amenities to be, all the amenities on the plan to be completed at the time of the fourth building or before that, because it is a large development of 120 multifamily units there.
And Alex, I knew that you have a great product. I'm not throwing you in with everybody else, but I think your ability to get the permits for 3 and 4.
I like to get special treatment.
So do I, but nobody gives them. But you're allowed to build the permits in 3 and 4. And the worst problem you have is that you come back to us and say something's gone wrong, and we'll take a look at it. But I think that for now we ought to operate on the premise that you're going to be doing 3 and 4 together. You're going to be building the pool house at the same time. So we tie the building permit to the third building, and that turns out to be a problem, they come back.
Yeah. No, I'm agreeable to it. It's, I'll just leave it at that.
So Michael, I just want to clarify, you're talking about a certificate of, the certificate of occupancy or certificate of zoning plans for the third building, whether it be building A or B, it didn't matter that the
Doesn't matter to me.
would have to be built out.
So this will allow us to complete the third building, pull the foundation permits and start construction on building 4, but you will not issue any COs on building 4 until you have CO on the pool house.
No, so the CO for the pool house, what I'm understanding, would come at the same time as the CO for the third building, correct, Michael?
Yes.
So at the time that you want a CO for either buildings A or B, the pool house would have to be ready at the same time for CO. All of them can be constructed. We're not going to hold up any permits. It would just be whatever building you finish first, it's got to be the
Again,
other amenities.
it should be fine. I'm hoping that we're completing that pool by the end of September, give or take, depending on when this actually gets pulled in of next year. And then that building A, the third building, would be done in February. So you've got several months window there to make this happen. So I feel comfortable that we can hit those dates.
So just, I want to reiterate that everyone understands. So this would be a little change of the request that you're asking. We'd still be modifying those 2 conditions that were asked for, except for what the end result would be that you could pull permits for all buildings on the project and start construction. But prior to the CO for the third building, whether it be building A or B, would require that all the amenities be completed at that time. The pool house, and the playground be completed at the time of the CO for the third building, whichever it would be, A or B. Are you in agreement with that? Are you comfortable with that?
Sounds good.
So
Okay.
Alex said, oh, sounds good.
And Alex, if you have to come back, I'll give you special treatment the next time.
All right.
So Brandon, are you comfortable? I know it's a little different, but you have to, if you have to tell us that you're comfortable with this, because the commission either has to, if they don't like your, what you asked for and they don't want to agree with that, they could deny your application. I would rather that we have more of a negotiation here. Are you comfortable with this as the solution here?
Yeah, I just to make sure I have it all here. And I'll go with Alex. He said he's comfortable with it. He's the one building it. But we're still gonna amend condition 1 the way we asked. And condition number 3, rather than it saying it's tied to the issuance of a certificate of occupancy for building 4, it'll say it's tied to the issuance of a certificate of occupancy for the third building construction.
Whether it be building A or B.
Right. So it is, I think, and I appreciate the offer to come back if we're within a couple of months. So that, to me, that helps that there's the conversation about coming back if something were to delay one thing or the other a few months. So
If I come back and you see I didn't start the pool, you're going to know I was
lying.
pulling your leg. So.
All right, so Dan, do you want to take it from here unless there's any more questions and talk about your conditions again and make sure that we compass that?
Sure. I asked to waive the reading of them, but I just want to make sure that whoever ends up making the motion, just to be really clear about what we've just discussed repeatedly over the last 5 minutes, just so Melinda can get it and we can get it to make sure it's recorded correctly.
The first easy thing is to exclude condition 16, since there's no dog park anymore.
Well, yeah, that's one of them. So I guess if there's no more discussion, we can go ahead and entertain a motion from the commissioners. It is nice to see that the project's going to come in ahead of time, which is really nice. And you guys do a great job in Norwich. Everything that you guys have done is fantastic. So That's good to see. So at this point, with all that discussion, is there any other questions or discussion? If not, we're ready to entertain a motion on this.
All right. I will, I'll move that the changes that are requested are in compliance with section 7.5 and 7.6 of the zoning regulations. That the request is modified so that the pool and its amenities are completed by the time the CO is issued for the third building completed. And that the conditions that Dan has put into his memo, of which we have waived the reading, are incorporated into the commission's decision.
Okay, that's the motion. Do we have a second?
Zhang, second.
Okay, any other discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposition? Any abstentions? Okay, it passes unanimous.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
everyone. I appreciate it. Happy holidays.
Thank
Yes,
you. Same to you and your families.
thank
Take
you.
care. Thank you.
And a healthy new year.
Yes,
Absolutely.
very healthy.
Okay. Thank you, Alex and Brandon.
Thank you so much, guys.
Okay, so going on in the agenda, old business, we have none. Extension requests, we have none. Bond reduction release requests, we have none. Other business, discuss amending the subdivision regulations to increase the fee required for open space to correlate with Connecticut general statutes. There was a write-up that was sent out on this with all the other documents, and there it is. So either Dan or Deanne, do you want to take the lead on this conversation?
Sure, hold on. I'm trying to get my screen. Somehow it disappeared for the middle of, all I'm seeing is Les's name. I'm sorry. Can you just wait for a second? I can't see anything.
Yeah, take your time.
1 second. All right, so I'm back. So Kathy Wazika is not here, and this really, if we could actually table this if you want to the next meeting, because it really came as a discussion at our previous meeting to talk about what our fees are for subdivision. Right now, it's $100 per lot that we get for open space fee. And the state statutes has a lot more money that we can get on the table for open space. And it talks about equal or shall be equal to not more than 10% of the fair market value of the land. So there is definitely, more money on the table that the city is losing to be able to purchase open space if we were to change our regulations to allow for this. But I really think, since Kathy was the one that asked to have it on as a discussion, if you didn't mind if we tabled this to the next meeting in January so she could be here to discuss it.
Yeah, I agree. So we'll entertain a motion to table this until the next meeting.
So moved.
This is Jason. I'd like to entertain a motion to extend it to table the open
second?
space fee.
Second.
Okay. And any other discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed or abstentions? Hearing none, it passes unanimously. And the POCD, Plan of Conservation and Development Implementation Committee meeting reminder for the 13th of January will be a virtual meeting.
So I would like to ask that meeting, I'd like to cancel that meeting. And the reason why is we just had our last meeting in November. And of course, with the holidays, that was Thanksgiving time. After that and the holidays, Dan and I really need to be working on getting that information together before we can really report out where we stand on stuff. And we have not had an opportunity to work on that. So there's no real business except for us kind of starting to report out. So I was going to ask the chairman, and since you're the vice chairman and you're running the meeting, I'd like to be able to cancel that meeting for January.
Okay, with no future date in mind, just.
No, we have meetings we have a next meeting after that. So let me tell you the next date.
Right, so we'll keep with the regular schedule and just cancel this one outright.
Yep, we've canceled that outright, and the next meeting would be April 14th, 2021.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, I see absolutely no problem with that at all. We'll entertain a motion. Cancel that meeting.
This is Jason. I'd like to make a motion to cancel the meeting for the 14th of January,
13th of January.
13th of January.
Okay, do we have a second?
Saying second.
Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposition? Abstention? Hearing none, it passes unanimously. And staff report.
So we do have a staff report, and we have people here from the public that I'm going to allow to speak. Attorney Green is here this evening to speak. So what I want to report on is there was an encroachment and a violation of the conservation easement on the subdivision that we approved on West Main Street. This is the subdivision that we cut out. There was a house cut out in the front of the property, and then the remaining parcel in the back of the property had an open space. And the open space, the conservation easement. The conservation easement was specifically to protect the slope that went down to Trading Cove. I don't know if you remember this subdivision. It was fairly recently approved by the commission. So I got a call last week from someone interested in buying the property who actually lives on Trading Cove, and they were like, well, I'm calling because I want to know what you're going to do about the trees that are down. And I'm like, what are you talking about? They said, wasn't there a conservation easement on that subdivision? I said, yes, there was. And he says, well, all the, trees have been getting cut. And I said, well, who's cutting and when? And they said, well, over the last couple months, they've been cutting the trees. And I said, well, it would have been nice if you called me when it was happening so I would know, what was going on to go out there. And he says, well, I'm interested in the property, but I'm not interested in the property having to clean it up with all the trees felled. And I said, well, we need to go out and look at it because it is a problem. So we did contact, in the meanwhile, I contacted the engineer for the project and the owner of the project. And they said that the only trees that were cut were at the end of the cul-de-sac. There was a couple trees that had branches that were falling over people's houses. I said, oh no, this is on the slope. And I got these pictures were emailed to me. So what ended up happening is we learned that they did this. The work that was done was not authorized by the owner of the property who has the conservation easement on the land. So he was not aware that this happened to his property. He wasn't there and looking at it. But he contacted his attorney, and they contacted Cove View condominiums that are next door, the towers, and felt that they might have been the ones that had did that. And that's why Attorney Green is here tonight, because it was determined that they did trespass onto the abutting property and did cut into the conservation easement. I will say that the city sent out a tree warden and Dan Deniska out to the site to look at it. And I'm going to have Dan talk about that as well. So before we have Attorney Green talk, I'll have Dan kind of talk about what him and Teresa had discussed in the field.
Okay.
So I have a number of pictures here. I'll just kind of scroll through as we're chatting. We took some pictures from up at the Cove View Tower. And I would just mention that you're going to see a number of trees down, but some of them were cut a long time ago and some of them were recently cut. So Teresa and I, without wading down into all this, I think that there's probably 12 to 15 trees that have been cut recently. But then on these pictures that I was showing you from the email from higher up, some of these trees were cut long ago. They're not freshly cut down within the last month or two. So I would just add that, Deanna.
Okay, and were those the ones that were cut down in the past? Were they part of the easement also or not?
Yeah, they were in the easement area. It's unfortunate that no one said that when we were having the conservation meeting. Oh, by the way, we have all these felled trees down there. That was not recognized that they were down there. You know, and it looks like neighbors have taken some of the trees and stockpiled, as you can see, you know, some of the wood for themselves. But I think the interested party who lives down on Craig was kind of like looking to have it cleaned up before he purchased it, which is not our, you know, I was not so upset about, you know, helping him clean it up, is that we just put a conservation easement on this land and now the trees are cut. So I'd like to turn it over at this point to Attorney Greens, if he's available, and to talk about what they would like to do about what happened. He is not the owner of the property. He is representing the condos next door,
Which condos?
which is the towers,
Which ones? I'm sorry.
the towers, the
Coveview.
Coveview Tower.
Coveview Towers. Okay, and are they the ones that cut the trees down?
Yes.
Okay, okay. Go right ahead, Attorney Green.
Good evening. So as Deanna explained, we were unaware of this until we received the email from Deanna.
It's locked up.
Learned that they are the ones who went out and I'm sorry, can you hear me?
No.
Cutting out.
All right, I apologize. Can you hear me now?
Yep.
Yes.
All right, so, and they're the ones who cut the trees. As I did explain that we received a notice from the tree warden approximately a few months ago about some trees that were hanging over some property and they thought that was dangerous. So under the direction of the tree warden, we went out and we cut some trees down. They were not in this conservation easement area. But again, that was done at the direction of the tree warden. And specifically, they saw that, you know, they told us what trees for us to take care of.
Attorney Green, I just want to make it clear to everyone, I'm sorry, I made a mistake. Attorney Green is representing the owner of the property and not the condo association. I apologize.
That is correct.
You're correct. So I just want to clarify, you're representing the owner of the property.
That is correct.
Yep.
So as the successor developer of the of Coveview and the owner of the property, there are two different parcels, as you all know. But there, in the past, there were some trees cut down, but nominal trees in the past. I would probably say the last time that we authorized any trees to be cut down had to be at least 8 years ago. So there, when we were subdividing this particular piece of property,
We lost you again, Attorney Green.
I apologize.
It's okay. Attorney Chappell is also on the call and he is representing the Coveview Towers. I'm sorry. It's
Attorney who?
Chappell. He is on this meeting as well.
Okay. So again, we reached out to the condo association and they thought that there was their trees and I'll let them take it from here. But no one reached out to us to ask about cutting any trees. And we were as shocked as Deanna and everybody else when we learned about it.
Okay, so the condo association cut down trees not on their property, is that correct?
Correct. They're on the abutting property, which was the subdivision.
Okay.
I'm
And-
sorry.
So Attorney Chappell is here now.
Oh, okay, great.
So first, my name is Jonathan Chappell. I'm an attorney representing Coveview Owners Association. And also, there were about, I have Matt Lissy, who's the property manager. And I also have Mr. Stevens, who's a member of the board, to the extent any facts are needed tonight. So the easement agreement was never given notice or never given to the association. So when the trees were cut, which I believe were about 3 to 7 trees, that's 3 to 7, there was no notice that they were cutting them, and there were no conservation markers in place, which obviously would have stopped things, hopefully. But I wanted, if I can, I want to talk about a position that needs determination as to which trees and where they're located, because as far as I could tell, the association, although it's demarcated as 2 lots, it's one community of 2 lots. And I do not believe that one of the lots with the trees, was withdrawn from the community when it was declared in 2003. So when we talk about ownership, I think that's up in the air. So the original declaration back in 2003 appears to include a survey which declared both lots. Excuse me, I don't remember how they numbered them, but let's just call them 1 and 2 for time being. 2 being the one where the existing building is located and where the tower is located, if you will, the building and the units. And then the second one, which is where we have the tree situation. So to me, there are 2 issues. 1, who owns the land? And 2, who had notice? And the association may own the land and it clearly did not sign on to or even was given a copy of this notice of the easement agreement. And third, I guess, was that the markers were not in place when these 3 to 7 trees are cut. The pictures obviously show more than 3 trees. But, you know, at least I'm told, and I understand Matt Lissy's here to explain which trees or how many, but at this
Excuse me,
point,
who gets the tax bill for the land that has the chopped trees on?
Well, they have
PPFR.
different- Yes, they have different ownerships on the assessor's record. So Attorney Chappell, that it's very disconcerting of what you're saying. And I'm sure Attorney Green is feeling the same way, because the city approved a subdivision on that adjacent property with their surveyors, which we depend on professional licensed surveyors to give us good information, and engineers. And it's very disheartening if there's a question mark about the ownership of a subdivision that this commission approved recently.
I do not disagree.
So then it's clear who the owner is.
It's not clear who the owner is.
I don't think it's clear.
Okay.
No,
Matthew?
I think the appropriate way would have been, and Matthew can, Attorney Green potentially could speak to this, is whether it was withdrawn from the association property.
I can address that. It was never the association's property to begin with. It was the developer's property, not the association. The only parcel that was developed for the association was, for a lack of better term, 586, which is parcel 1, if you want to call it that. But they were always 2 separate, because they're actually the house at 612 West Thames Street, that was all part of the land all that land in the back is part of 612, which we subdivided. 612 was not ever part of, that was owned by a Frank Sikowski. That was a separate parcel. That was not, and someone else was living in there. Matter of fact, Mr. Sikowski was living in there. He had life use of the property when the condominiums were built. So I don't know, Attorney Chappell, where you're coming up with this, but it's not even close. So
Okay,
I appreciate
Yeah, go
that.
ahead.
And I did preface everything with the documents that we have, I believe, show that the entire parcel 1 and 2 were declared in 2003. I'm not denying who lived in a house or who didn't, but we could check into that. But the other issue is we didn't get a copy of the easement agreement. And we also didn't, there are no markers. I don't know if they're in place now, but there weren't markers in place. So how would someone cutting trees even know it was a concert?
I'm going to jump in on this one. So,
Yeah, go ahead, Deanne.
okay, so he's correct. Attorney Chappell is correct that the conservation markers are not installed. The conservation easement specifically says the markers need to be installed. However, Attorney Chappell, you would not be given a copy of an easement for a subdivision adjacent to you that has an easement on it. It's just goes with that particular property. And I would also have to say that, it is an issue of trespass. It's like, they went on to adjacent property, notwithstanding what you're saying about the ownership issues. If it's really a separate parcel in 612, which is how it was presented to us, you would never, as an abutter, get a copy of a conservation because there would be no expectation that you would encroach into somebody's property and cut in the conservation easement. So I just wanted to say that. But again, this issue about whether it was part of the co-view or not has to be cleared up. But I think we need to at least focus on right now the next step as far as we have a conservation easement on the back of that land. And it was discussed at length and determined to protect those people on Cove View. And I think for clarification, I think, Jason, you should probably identify that you live there. I think you need to do that and explain so that it's fair on the record that you may have or may not have a conflict of interest on it.
Sure. I don't live directly in front of the area where the trees were cut down. I'm probably about 4 houses up. But I'm aware that if trees are cut down, there's a terrible flooding problem. And so I would be worried about the people that live in front of the trees that have been cut down.
Appreciate you disclosing that, Jason.
Okay, it sounds like there's a lot of unknowns out there right now at this point. Deanne, I would almost propose, can we do a little bit more research and get who owns what, when, and
I think that, I don't think we should have to do that research. We have a surveyor that was involved on behalf of the owner applicant, which is Attorney Green's client. I think their surveyor needs to, do the research to verify it. And Attorney Chappell.
I agree. I absolutely agree.
That is not something beyond our office. However, what we want to do is because of this slope, and obviously we're getting snow tomorrow and that kind of thing, but the weather does get warm and concerned about rain and things, is that, we want to figure out about stabilizing that slope at some point. So our tree warden would normally, excuse me, my phone's ringing off the hook. Our tree warden would normally our tree warden went out there, and we would normally hire a forester that would go out and identify how many trees were cut, the width of the size of the trees that were cut, and determine their value for us and make a recommendation. I did speak with Attorney Chappell, and there is a cost to the city that that we have to bear for that. And I think that should be the responsibility of we could. When I talked to him about, yes, we could go to the owner and say, you're going to pay for this to do this, but we already have acknowledgement that it is the Cove View Towers that did it. So I really think that they should be being responsible for getting the cities to have a forester go out there and identify for us what the impact is of this and what the cost is, or what a remediation plan for planting.
Yeah, I agree.
May I chime in, if I may, Attorney Green here? I'll agree with the cost and everything Deanna said, but I'll disagree on one thing. I don't think we need to go out and prove that we own the land. We proved that to the commission when we got approval. Because somebody else says they think they own the land, let them go prove it. I don't think we need to, as we got approval from the town, from the city. We proved we own the land. As a matter of fact, you can go back and look at Cove View Towers when they
Attorney Green, you're locked up. We can't hear you. If you can hear us, you're locked up. We can't hear you.
Can you hear me?
Now we can.
I apologize. But again, I think we proved when we got approval that we owned the land. We presented all the documentation and we got an approval from the commission. And because somebody is alleging that they think they own the property, I don't think we should have to go back out and prove it. We got approval based on our ownership. And if someone else is saying they own the property, let them prove it. If they'd have to go to court and prove it. Right now, they trespassed. If they think they own the property, they're the ones who have to prove it.
Matt,
Yes.
can you tell me whether or not when your surveyor surveyed the property for the subdivision, did he look at the survey that would have been on record for the condominium association to see if the boundary lines matched up?
Yes, because the developer, my client was the successor developer of Cove View Towers and had this separate 6-acre parcel, which was next to it. They were 2 separate deeds. So yes, he was aware of that. He looked at the old plans. We had the old plans out. And again, that was all part of 612 West Thames Street, that second parcel.
So, Chairman, I don't know what you want to do. I mean, we can table this as old business for next meeting to discuss more about it. But I think we'd like to move forward with getting our forester out there and to get that to determine, again, it's probably going to be now with the snow cover, it's going to be a little bit down the road, but to kind of determine where we're at as far as the amount of trees that were actually taken down recently. We're not going to count ones that were taken down in the past that are still there, but they can tell fresh cuts and we'll know that and what the value is. And it may still, even though some of those trees are old and been down for a long time, it looks pretty crappy. I'm going to be quite honest. If you look at this picture, that shouldn't look like that. You know, cutting trees and just leaving them there I mean, it's not a forestry operation. And even that, it would be left, those logs would have been taken away.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. If we do go ahead and table this till next meeting, get everybody a chance to take a look at it, get a forester out there with the tree warden, excuse me, and ensure that the property's stabilized and anything else that needs to be done.
All right.
I think that's the right thing to do. Do we need to?
Is there anyone else that would like to speak? I know Attorney Chappell, you had some people here. Did you want to speak again? Do you mind, Les, if they speak since they're here on the call?
No, that's fine. That's fine.
So I just want to say I'll keep it brief, that this ownership issue, while, sort of a last minute discovery, if you will, I'll look at that and I don't expect Attorney Green or anyone with city to spend time on that. I'll look at that and see if I'm wrong, and I'll admit if I am. I think that like Deanna and I had a conversation the other day, that the association is certainly willing to pay for the cost of the forester, and understands that whatever happened here, we need to know what, when, and who pays. And the association is, let's just assume the ownership issue is not an issue. The association is understanding that it's to make things right. Matt, I don't know if you have anything to add, or Mr. Stevens.
No, that's pretty much it. This is Matt Lissy. You know, the association we discussed, and they are willing to do whatever it takes to rectify the situation.
Matt, because we're having minutes of the meetings, could you spell your last name so we have it?
Lisee.
Thank you.
Okay, so why don't we do that? Let's go ahead and, I guess we'll do it. We'll entertain a motion to table it. And Deanne, if they, you sort of manage, I guess, manage this and keep it moving at the right rate that you think is appropriate.
I will.
In relation to the weather.
I will.
Okay, and then at the next meeting, we'll revisit this and see where we are and see where the dust has settled and see what steps we need to take after that. I think
Yes, it'd be helpful if Attorney Chappell does his, gets that information too. If there is a question of ownership, that would be really important to know, and not necessarily at the meeting. It'd be helpful to know ahead of time. So, I can advise the commission at that point and get attorney advice from our attorney if there's anything to do with that. There was a problem with the surveyors in the site plans that he created based on those boundaries. All right, so thank you. So yeah, a motion to table to next month's meeting. That would be
And
great.
what are we going to call this? I know it's not on the agenda. Is it going to be the Cove View trees or?
Yes, no, it's the I would call it 612. It's West Fame Street. I think was what the address of that house was. 612 West Fame Street. Trees and cutting of trees and conservation easement or something.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, that's fine. Then as long as we have it labeled so we all know we're talking the same thing. Okay, so we'll entertain a motion to table this till the next meeting with the action items that we just described.
So moved.
Do we have a second?
I'd like to second that motion.
Any other discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposition? Any abstentions? Okay, it's approved unanimously. And thank you, everybody, for that. Hopefully we can get this resolved at the next meeting to everybody's satisfaction. So,
Thank you.
okay. That was part of the staff report. Is there any other staff report, Deanne or
I
Dan?
would say no. I think that's enough staff report for now.
Okay. Okay. Okay, if there's nothing, does anybody else have anything to bring before the group? Hearing none, we'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
We have a second?
I'd like to second that motion.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
All right.
Okay, any abstention? Okay. Thank you, everybody.
Have a good
Thank
night.
you, everyone. Good
Thank you.
night.
Happy
Happy
to have you
holidays.
Yeah, same to everybody. Happy holidays.
And thank you for everybody that joined us tonight. Thank you.
Bye-bye.